Today I'm joined by Stephen. Stephen is a former member of the Defence Forces with 23 years service and is now the Health and Safety Manager with Securitas.
That's right, yeah. Just shy of 23,
yeah. How long are you out of the army now?
2.5 years now, yeah. So it's been flown by. 2.5 years has gone so quick, and I've had 3 different positions in 2.5 years, and one job for 23 years nearly. So it's it's been a whirlwind 2.5 years. Like so.
And do you miss the army now, or?
Do I miss it? Look, yeah, I miss the people. I miss the sort of the environment that you were working in terms of learning and training and the way you were able to do different things. But I just felt it was time for me to sort of move on and do something different. And I suppose I wanted to try and progress and to sort of as I said, to try new things and have a new challenge. So that's why I decided to go. Yeah.
Do you remember your first day in the army?
I don't remember the first. Well, I remember vaguely. I think you kind of push it to the back of your mind, you know. I remember walking in and the NCO was real nice, you know, and he was asked first name terms, and I'm so I was like, I introduced myself, thought, geez, this is great, you know. And then you go in and you sign and you come out, and then you're standing and he's absolutely hopping off you then, you know. So I was like, what's going on here? It was like going in a revolving door and coming out the other side, and that was started the way it started. So and then I've vivid memories of my dad dropping me back to the gates of Calbrew, which is where I trained, on a Sunday evening. I remember last of the summer wine used to be on, and then we used to go. That's just stuck in my head for some reason. So whatever, I think you'd be back at 9 o'clock or something on the Sunday night, back in and off you go then for the week ahead. So
what first prompted you to join the army? Were you involved in sports when you were younger, or?
Yeah, I was played football at a decent enough level, underage and that in Dublin, and then I suppose I was in college. I'd done my leaving cert at 17, so I was very young. I turned 17 in January, done my leaving cert in the June, so I'd only gone 17 doing leaving cert, and I didn't really know what I wanted to do, so I got involved in a course in Finglas. It was a year more or less, like a football coaching at the time. It was very early stages, and at the end of that then was hope that I would get a scholarship to America. So I did get a letter of offer for that, but at the same time my mum then pulled an advertisement out of the newspaper to say the army are looking for people. So I actually applied then and got that instead. So
she didn't want you leaving for
I don't know. Looking back now, I think that was. But look, there's a bit of a family history. My grandfather, my mum's dad, he served. He was in the Congo, and he was a sergeant in the Army School of Music and that. There's a bit of history there as well. And my great grandfather was in too. So I didn't know at the time, but I think that was our ulterior motive. Maybe we didn't travel to the States, you know.
Keep you in. And I suppose did you play football at a high level when you were younger then? Or?
Yeah, I played for the likes of Cherry Horses, Crumlin United, and then played for St. Pat's underage all the way up to under 19s and that, and then senior football played with Malahide United and that as well too. So I kind of carried that on for a while, and then had to give up because I had 2 dodgy knees. You know. The army didn't help with that. No, it didn't help with that. So
and then so you trained in the brewer then, did you?
In that fishbowl, that's the brewer. Running around in circles.
That's where I trained as well. I liked the training there. I don't think I would have liked the training anywhere else.
It was weird because at the time there was 3 platoons training at the same time.
Oh, I'd say that was busy.
So it was like we used to be running in opposite directions, you know, and there was all sorts of stuff going on, and you're doing PTs, and then going for lunch was trying to get 90 people into a cookhouse, 90 odd people into a cookhouse at the same time, was mental. Interesting, so that kind of added to it a little bit, I think. But
was it in O Block where you trained, was it?
No, L Block,
L Block, okay.
Just in the gate there, so.
Oh yeah, jeez. That's been used. It might be a locker room now, don't know.
It is a locker room, I think, Well, when I was last there it was a locker room, but we had the whole of downstairs and then upstairs, and then there was O Block as well, on top as well.
Because the other platoons,
Yeah.
Jeez, mental. And was it 6 to 8 months training for you, or?
I think it was about 6 months. We trained, and then we completed our 3-star training together. So we weren't. I know some people may have done 3-star training in units and stuff like that, but we done it all in the one block. So it was all in the BTC and the brewer, and then we finished and passed out then.
And did out the 3 platoons that passed out, did you amalgamate down to 2, or or one at any stage?
No,
or
it
did
stayed
everyone
at
get
3.
through?
Yeah, it stayed at 3, which is strange. I was only thinking about it the other day, actually. Like, it seemed that nearly everybody that started finished. There was a few that through injury or, you know, maybe it wasn't for them that kind of that dropped out. Yeah, but the attrition rate wasn't too high. Like there was 3 platoons that passed out at the end of it, and the majority of people were those that started. So
yeah, what was the economic situation like outside of the army? Like, was the country in recession, or was it?
it was 98, so it was okay. Yeah. There was sort of my friends were kind of getting jobs, decent jobs. You know, there was didn't seem to be much issue, and they had many jobs in the time that I was in the army. You know, but just something I suppose clicked with me in terms of the sports, the fitness, and maybe a little bit of history without me realising it at the time.
Yeah.
My grandfather serving, that kind of pushed me, along with the advertisement in the paper, pushed me in that direction, you know. So.
And then any like memorable moments from training or anything?
Yeah, it's hard to it's kind of all becomes a blur, to be honest.
Yeah, it does, definitely.
Yeah, I remember there was one time we were doing the dig in. Actually, we decided between the 3 of us that were in the trench just to bring one sleeping bag, thinking we would save on some sort of washing at the end of it, and the NCO found out, and that was the end of that. So I won't get into the details of what happened after, but
did you just make it all the way onto the ground without the sleep? Like,
I don't know how we managed to do that now, but it was only when we were actually in the trench and it was coughed, and then we were asked why, and of course me naively, you know, we tried to explain, but yeah, it was a cold night, and it was a cold few days after, I tell you.
Jeez, you would have been down there for like a week or 2, would you?
Well, that was just a dig in phase. I suppose we were out of Kilbride. Sorry, actually no, it was Glen. So we were out of Glen, and we were doing the dig in. So we had only decided to bring for that period of time.
Yeah,
that amount of kit. Yeah. You learn a hard lesson, but sure, look.
Yeah, jeez, I said it was a tough lesson, alright.
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
You were freezing. Yeah. The trench didn't fill up with water or anything, did it?
No, but we were definitely full of water after it, alright, yeah, from the river.
Spent a bit of time in the river.
Yeah.
Good stuff.
It's all good.
Grand. And then you passed out then, and you're into the 2nd battalion, were you, or were you?
No, I started actually 2 Cav. Out of 90 of us, there was 10 of us got
right.
selected for the 2 Cav squadron. So that was sort of my first preference, and it was a good few people's first preference in terms of anybody from Dublin or around the area was looking to try and get there. So I was kind of delighted and lucky to be picked sort of as one of the 10 out of the 90 odd people to get.
Yeah. 2 Cav is a good unit, right? So, and you can go down 2 different routes, can't you? So you either go like driver or you go down the reconnaissance route, right? Yeah.
At the time, the sort of recce stuff wasn't really in.
Okay.
In terms of what it is now, I suppose. But yeah, with all the driving courses, so I would have been straight out of 3-star training and then straight onto the bikes.
Bike license.
Yeah, so I would have done the escorts of honour, done that course, then done all the driving courses from sort of Nissan all the way up to truck and trailer, like so.
Yeah, jeez.
It's amazing, like at that age, you know,
age,
18, 19, 20, to have all them qualifications and have that experience, then. Yeah. You know, be able to obviously drive in the escort of honour and do the presidential escorts was brilliant. Like.
Yeah, but you would have been on like all those presidential escorts then, like escorting the president and like different dignitaries then around Dublin or from the airport to the Oris.
Yeah, so any ambassadors that are coming or as you said, dignitaries to visit the president, they're entitled to an escort of honour, so we would have been part of that. So, and as a new sort of DR in the unit, then you're on every one that comes. So look, that's part of it, you know. You know, but with the more experienced guys, but it's interesting and challenging and trying to drive obviously in the trees on the road at speed, and it's, you know, it's a different thing. Yeah, trying to keep it as sort of clean as you can, because obviously, you know, everybody's watching and the cameras are there, and they're high profile events. Like I think the one that stands out would have been, we did the escort of honour for Jack Lynch's funeral down in Cork, like. So we would have went down, drove the bikes down, which was a horrible drive. It was terrible weather. Then we would have had to clean them, like until they were pristine, and then do the escort and then drive back.
There's a lot of effort goes into cleaning those bikes, right? You see lads that be scrubbing them for weeks before.
Absolutely, yeah. You don't realise and then they're inspected, and if they're dirty, you're told. Like it's you know, it's Yeah, so they are looked after, but it is hard work to maintain them, all right, yeah.
How do they get all the wheels like in such a straight line?
Yeah, when they're parked or when they're driving?
No, when they're parked, yeah. Like
so they're lined. We line them up. They are lined up, but like when you're driving, you're constantly watching,
like left and right.
Yeah, and you're kind of dressing off. say if you're dressing off the left or the centre, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
The two guys on each side then will just kind of glimpse as they go then to make sure that you're kind of lined up properly. So yeah, it's hard to kind of do that, and then you have the guards whizzing by you on each side, and you have all sorts of stuff going on. But it's definitely an experience. Yeah.
It looks like one of the cooler units to be in the Defence Forces.
Yeah, look, it's. I mean, the pathway, I suppose, when you for me when I came out of recruit training was excellent. Like to be straight into that stuff. You know, sometimes you go from that training environment with recruits and it's so full on. It can kind of be a bit of a lull and lapse into maybe being on the lines or not or doing duties or stuff like that. But in terms of the training, like it was straight into doing your bikes and your cars and trucks and trailers and all that sort of stuff. So
upskill like straight away.
Yeah. Because the idea then would be you were at that level that you could do them duties that the cav would do in terms of escorts, or be able to travel overseas and be in certain positions, you know what I mean, because of the qualifications that you had. So
And did you stay in the cav then what was the next step then after the cav? Like how long were you there for till your like first promotion?
Yeah, so I went overseas in 2001 to the Leb, came back, and then I did an NCO's course in 2003 and got an injury on it. Yeah, and came off it then as a result of that. So
it's pretty long in.
That was sort of just over nearly 3/4 of the way through it, I suppose. Yeah. So it was tough. Like, but that was obviously I had to pass tests, and look, I wasn't able to do that. So that was a tough pill to swallow. Now in terms of we were on it with other lads out of the unit, and they obviously came back promoted, and I was still standing there going, you know. So what did I do after that then? 2004 gave an opportunity to go over to Liberia with the cav troop. So there was a platoon of us went sort of overseas together. It was the first time it happened, I think, in a long time.
Right.
So that was brilliant opportunity, and it was great. So I took it, went to Liberia 2004, and came back then and transferred then out of the 2 cav to DFHQ.
Okay.
I suppose, look, the disappointment of the NCO's course and not being able to get over the line.
Yeah.
And then I kind of just wanted to get away in terms of it was to do it myself. In terms of just being there with the lads that you had trained with and that had progressed and you hadn't. So overseas was one opportunity, but when I came back then an opportunity to transfer to DFHQ came up and I took it. So
that would have been like an admin type job then, would it?
Yeah, plus my now wife was in at the time, and it was difficult for the two of us. We were both in operational units, and then you're trying to juggle family life and all the rest of it, and you were getting sent here and she's getting sent there. So it was just an opportunity, as I said, partly for myself, but also then in terms of family, that work-life balance, I was able to kind of tweak that a little bit. So
it's not always easy though either to transition like into like an admin or a DFHQ role.
No, because you're so used to being, I suppose, ready to go, or you could get called today for duty tomorrow, or you could be on exercise, or you could be doing lots of things. So when I went to DFHQ, it took me a while to settle into that sort of
9 to 5.
And that your duties are planned out, and that you kind of know you're off this weekend, or when you're on duty next, and it doesn't really change that much. Whereas the flip side of that, where it's coming from, was it was constantly changing all the time. So it takes
4 or 5 duties a month.
Well, look, it takes a while. It takes a while to get used to that change, So.
And then you're in DFHQ. Then, what was your responsibility in DFHQ?
So I worked in Como, which is Commissioned Officers Management Office. Sorry.
Okay.
So based in Infirmary Road, and then we moved up to Killashta then eventually, and then on to Newbridge as part of the decentralisation. But so I would have been initially starting off with very basic admin, and then worked my way to the point where I looked after the passports and overseas.
That's
stuff.
for the diplomatic passports.
Yeah, so anybody travelling overseas then obviously needs an official passport, and some need diplomatic. So I would have dealt with the passport office directly in that application, or visas, so you'd be dealing with embassies and stuff like that, and then you would liaise with the overseas units then and the admin staff in terms of what was a requirement for manifest travelling and stuff like that. So.
Right, so interesting as well.
Yeah, that was good. Look, that was good. Got dealing with different people and going on different missions, and then you're dealing with civilians in terms of the embassies and the passport office and stuff like that. So it was very interesting.
Coordination up, and then the academic side of things. Then you've got like the advanced. You were in Carlo for a while, were you? Or
I did. Sorry, I did the Carlo. That kind of came in at the start when I did my NCO's course late. Then I went on to do it in 2015 2012, I think it was 2012, 2013. So as part of that, we got that recognised prior learning with Carlo IT, and so I done that and got the certificate then in terms of the level 6 for the NCO's course. Yeah, I think it is. Yeah, so. But like in the meantime, I had done, as I said, the courses in and that sort of upskilling in the CAV, and then when I went to DFHQ, I got the opportunity to do the ECDL course and some other sort of strategic application courses, web design course. So it was more IT or admin based stuff, but it was still there. That sort of ongoing upskilling and training was still happening,
Yeah. Okay. And was it that you done the masters in Griffith College, was it, or?
Yeah. So what happened was, I suppose we fast forward to my sort of thoughts about exiting the Defence Forces. Although I had all the experience in terms of the placements that I'd been in or the jobs that I'd worked in overseas and stuff like that, the qualifications I didn't kind of feel matched that. So I thought I had a real interest then in the latter stages in terms of education and learning and development, and I worked for the last couple of years in de-training. So that was sort of the environment that I was in, lessons learned, and there's all sorts of stuff going on, external education. So it kind of opens your eyes to everything that's out there. So as part of that, I kind of look to go back and do a cert in education, learning and development. That was a level 9, so obviously I was jumping from 7, which I had, to 9. So there was a couple of hoops I had to jump through to get that cert, to get on that cert. And then I had sort of transitioned out of the military, but kept going with the course. So I then enrolled in the postgrad diploma and then finished the masters November of last year.
So you finished it recently enough then? So it was the summer when I submitted it, but I got presented with the old scroll in November of last year at the presentation ceremony. Hand to go, or cap as it's called. Cheers. It was a good day. Like a lot of effort and a lot of support from my family to get it over the line. So to get through it, because the family, they also suffer as well when you're going through the exams and studying.
Yeah, they have to listen to you. And then you disappear then, so now lucky my children are a little bit older, so but still, I mean, there still things have to be done in the house and stuff, and you're disappearing for 3 hours. And they don't know what it's for, so it's good to be able to show them, look, this is what it's for at the end of the day, So. And
did you have many other roles then in the Defence Forces then? So you're at DFHQ, D-training, is that kind of where you finished up in D-training, or? Yeah,
in between that was sent to Newbridge as part of that decentralisation, which travelling from Dublin was a bit of
that was just a reorganisation.
A nightmare, So I went from working sort of 20 minutes away from the house to 2 hours maybe, depending on travelling arrangements. So it was that was a challenge. So I managed to get back up to 2 Brigade headquarters in Rathmine. So I went back to the Brewer, which is where it started. Spent 2 or 3 years there and went overseas to Lebanon in 2017. And when I came back from Lebanon, then there was a position available in the training, so I applied for that and got that. So
brilliant. Was it 3 overseas in total, was it?
Lebanon. No, 4. Sorry, I'm selling myself short. Lebanon, Liberia, Chad, and Lebanon again, and at the end.
So 2 in Lebanon.
Nearly 20 years apart. So that was.
What was your best trip like out of?
Liberia was definitely the best trip. Yeah, it's the best trip in terms of all the training that we had done and sort of what you got to do while you were there, like long range patrols, all that sort of stuff. Like, so you were out, you were gone. It was really, you were there with a group of lads that you worked with, that you had been in a unit with. You all travelled together, so everybody knew each other. So it was.
What was your job out there?
So we were just in recce troop. So we would just go out then and do armour patrol, say, in terms of ahead of the main body, or we would do foot patrols, or we would maybe spend 2 or 3 nights out. Just at the time there was an amnesty on weapons in Liberia, so the locals could give them in. There was no issue, so it was more or less just kind of keeping track on what was going on and sort of sending that intel back.
Making sure like that the amnesty was actually
and that it was happening, and that it was, everything was above board. So but it was very interesting from a soldiering perspective, like, because that's what it was. That's what it was for the whole trip, like.
Were you a section commander out there, or you just
No, it was a trooper at the time. But the CAV is slightly different, I suppose, or was when I was there, in terms of I know there's a rank structure, but sort of everybody would have responsibility for tasks, so although the rank structure was there, as troopers we would have had as much responsibility as some of the NCOs at times, so.
Yeah, it's definitely interesting. Like I find like more times now when you're overseas, like you're not just like a rifleman or a trooper.
Yeah, you
definitely have like a lot more responsibility.
Yeah, like even as when I went to Chad, it was with the NSE, National Support Element, and worked with a small group there, and like there was CQs and that, but like you still have enough responsibility, you know. You weren't. It wasn't as if you were just the private driver, say, you know. You know, looked after different things, and you were given that responsibility. So that it has. It's definitely. I think it's definitely changed, you know.
Yeah, and so you've done all the overseas. You've done all like the courses, and you know you've had like your jobs like in DFHQ and D Train or whatever. Like why did you then decide to leave after 23 years?
Yeah, I suppose having done what I'd done, I kind of felt that I wasn't going to go down the army road of promotion in terms of doing standard course and spending X amount of time in the course. So that just wasn't for me. Like it's just something that I had made a decision that I wasn't going to do.
Yeah, that's fair enough.
So the only route, I suppose, in order to progress and to try and take up a new challenge would have been to leave, you know. So I was very lucky in the sense that I initially looked to leave and diffed me toe, but it didn't work, and I was able to come back. So some good people at the time really kind of helped me in that sense, you know, which I was very grateful for. I learned a lot from that experience, and then kind of took that forward with me.
Did you when you left? So you left twice, essentially, like yourself.
I got the stick the first time for coming back.
Everyone knows. I think most people do, so don't worry. But how long did you leave for? Like, what was the time period like with your leave and things like that?
So I only had 6 weeks, and I gave it 5. So it was coming to crunch time where I had to make that decision. But look, the place where I went to, it kind of wasn't for me. Didn't really settle in it. Tried everything I could, but was kind of felt like I was being micromanaged a little bit. And then, if I'm being honest, I probably pitched myself at the wrong level. So that's a challenge when you're leaving, is to know where you fit. Like, you know, you get that imposter syndrome. Where should I be here? And then you know, you're pitching yourself at levels that you shouldn't be really, in terms of your ability or your experience, but you don't really know that until you kind of get out there and try it.
And did you feel like you were pitched at like a lower, like too low a level or too high a level?
Without sounding now, I'm not trying to talk myself up here, but I suppose it felt a little bit like it was a bit low in terms of the job role and what I was doing. And then when I seen what else was there, I was like, you know, I could do that. Like, and you know, without getting above your station, you know, you want to try and fulfill your potential, I suppose, and that was part of it, you know. So
speaking of me, is like I took a massive drop the second time I left, like in Saturday. I think I was on like mid to high 30s when I left. Left the Defence Forces, but then when I went into civilian street, I think I took a job for like 22,500, right? And I was like, what am I doing here? Now I had another business, right, that like was running like on the weekends, and I was probably making more money in the business that I was doing on the weekends than I was in the army anyway, right? So I was like, I'll just do it because I want the experience, and I think I'm done with the army now. And then
but then you're doing two.
And then I was like, oh no, what am I after doing here? But I was determined like to stick it out, and I stuck it out. And then I got approached then to go to a different company, and went and got a bit of a pay rise then, which I was delighted of. And then,
but would you have stayed doing that then?
For like the lower salary? Well, it was still a recruitment job, right? But my job in the Defence Forces I worked on ops was very similar to recruitment, only in the army we call it, when you go for a new job in the army, you call it a course. Like, I've done this course, and then when you do this course, then you get put into this job, right? But in recruitment, right, a new person is looking for a job, and you basically get the CV and say, oh, you can do X, Y, and Z skills. You're ready for progression from, let's say, a senior engineer into like an engineering team lead. And we recognise that potential like as recruiters, and then we move you into the team lead position in a new company. And it's similar in the Defence Forces, like, because you could be like a corporal driver, but then you want to go and become a corporal driving instructor. So we put you on the driving instructor's course in ops, and then we send you on the driving instructor's course, and then you come back then, and then we've set up then driving courses, and then we put privates on the course, and then the instructor then instructs on the course, and that's how you grow out the Defence Forces, right? It's very similar to that, but I didn't really know that when I was leaving, and I didn't really get the jobs in recruitment because of the experience in the army. I actually got the jobs outside the army because of the business experience that I had in my little small business, because I had sales experience.
Okay.
And recruitment is sales, right? Well, it's an element of sales, and it's a double sell, right? So I have to sell the job to you, the candidate that's looking for the job, but I also have to sell you as the individual to the company.
Okay.
And then both parties have to meet, so you're matchmaking, and then they have to like each other, and then you're saying, oh well, this is why you fell down, and you know, and then the company's saying this is the feedback, and then you know you're making it work, kind of thing. So yeah, it's very similar to what I was doing in the army, but I couldn't articulate what it was.
Okay.
And that's why I kind of done myself out of it. But yeah, look, I mean, it was definitely some great experience, and the company that I was in, I got professionally trained in how to do the job. So the company is a good company to work for. I just pitch myself at the lowest salary.
It's hard, and then you hear sometimes of guys that pitch themselves too high, and they struggle just as much as people that, you know. So trying to get that level, where you're fulfilling your potential, but not putting yourself under huge pressure when you're already trying to transition out. You know, it's a big thing. And then obviously everybody has financially they have to look after themselves and make sure all the bills are paid and all the rest of it, you know. So it's you chat to guys in the background and you'd hear stories. They get well paid jobs, but they're working, and they are working and that's a hard part, because they don't have that work-life balance. So
the work-life balance will definitely, the army's kind of different, right? So I said it to Philip Cullen, in the army, you get paid for the job that you're prepared to do. So go overseas and put your life on the line or whatever it is, right? Whereas in the civilian world, you're paid to be effective, and you're paid to make the business money. So Philip mentioned it really well. He said you have to be a net earning asset for the business that you're going into, and that can be a very different mind shift for people. Transitioning from, let's say, a public sector organisation into the corporate environment.
It's that the key part of that, which I kind of it took me a little while, but then it's just added value. How can you, because that makes you then that commodity that they want to keep, and that's what you need, you know. So how do you, depending on what sort of role you have in the company that you're in. So some of it will be bringing in new business. Some of it will be maintaining the business that you have and the relationship with clients or whatever. So it's for me, it's trying to shift from, as you said, fulfilling a role and getting remunerated for that role versus filling a role that's adding value. Now look, there's plenty of us and plenty of ex-military personnel who would have added value while they were doing it, but that's not the primary focus, I suppose, in terms of the job function itself.
It's to make the business money, unfortunately. When you leave,
that's what comes down to the brass tacks.
The other thing as well is that you're gonna have, most jobs, right, are Monday to Friday, unless you go into we work with FMCG companies, fast moving consumer goods. These be the companies that would have all the food in warehouses and distribute them to different hotels or bars, restaurants, and Tesco's or Dunn's, whatever. Those companies work 7 days a week, right? But you can be guaranteed that you're going to be on Monday to Friday or Tuesday to Saturday, whatever it is, 8:30 to 5 o'clock, and there your day is done. There's no one going to be ringing you and saying, I need you to come in for an escort or a 24-hour duty. That stuff doesn't happen. It takes a while to get used to the phone not ringing as well some weekends. But the big thing that people need to realise when they're leaving is not to be going out asking for crazy money. You'll have lads that are on 40 grand saying, oh yeah, I'm looking to get 60, 70 grand. You're just no man, no, don't do that.
Small little increases, or try and just climb that ladder slowly, because that helps you then develop as well. It's not, as I said, you can find yourself at that level of, and then that's the expectation is there on you as well, which can affect you in terms of your performance, and then where do you go from there? That's the other side.
Well, that's it. So I'd always anyone leaving a job, really, I'd always recommend a 5 to 10k increase. Even a 2.5k increase is kind of plenty. Just to get the foot in the door, find out what's going on, get a view of the landscape, and then in 6 to 12 months, then you can renegotiate the salary. One of the guys that they were talking to recently, he left. He left for in around kind of mid 40s, which is fine. And he was looking for a pay rise. He got approached by someone and said, look, we'd pay 60k or whatever it is. So it was a decent increase then he was going to get. And he went back to his current employer, and he was I'd rather stay, but this is the offer that I've been approached with. So I just kind of went through the process. can you guys would you guys match it? And said, look, we won't match it, but like we'll do something similar for you. So they put in place like a remuneration package that like made sense for him, and like a development program so he could kind of develop in role then as well. So like you need to, anyone leaving, not even just defence forces, like if you're thinking about like leaving your job or like thinking about leaving the defence forces, like I think leaving the defence forces, your money's never going to increase, right? It's set salary, whatever it is. But if you're going to leave any job, like discuss it with your boss before you actually leave. Say, look, I'm thinking about leaving because most people work for money, right? And we have to be honest about it. You discuss it with your boss. Look, this is what I need to make my life work outside of work.
Yeah.
And then if they can like make that work for you or put in place steps that you have to take to get to that level, then that makes more sense than just kind of willy nilly saying.
Yeah, and I think
kind of
most,
salary, you know,
like most people, if you're competent and you're capable, that conversation is an adult one that you would have, and you know, put it out there and say, look, this is what I'm thinking. I don't think anybody would take offence to that. You know, no. I'm sure you'd be probably respected in terms of the company itself, and if they wanted to keep you, you know, and you were adding that value, and they can, and once your demands are not, you know, astronomical. Yeah, you know, at the end of the day, like that's the you have to be realistic. Like, so that's, you know,
but even
it's
like,
hard to broach that when you're leaving the military, because that's not something you ever think about.
Yeah.
So it took me a while to kind of get my head around that and how to approach that subject, or, you know, even the likes of finances and how to deal with that. Where we spoke about where to pitch yourself, you know, all that stuff is it's kind of stuff you don't even think or talk about, because it's not something that you come into contact with. So it took me a while to kind of get my head around that when I left, you know.
Yeah, it's definitely like a taboo subject. Like people,
yeah,
like, you know, they have like these aspirations of like what they want to earn versus like what they're earning at the moment, and which is fine. Like there's no issue with it. But I'd say take the incremental steps before like going out and having unrealistic expectations. Because the support as well in the army, right, that you get, I found anyway, is very different to what's outside in the civilian world, right? Because that other person that is your manager is also being paid to be effective and paid to deliver and add value, and they don't necessarily always have the time to be bombarded with questions and tell you how to do your job. Like,
and then sometimes you have to take into consideration that they may, and this may sound cynical, but they may not want to give you all the information at times, because, you know, ultimately you could be a threat to them, or you know, so that you have to understand that. I completely agree. It's a completely different dynamic to when you're serving, and everybody sees that sort of bigger picture, and we all need to kind of work to get to that. Now I know the changing in the promotion competition has slightly changed from when I was there, has slightly changed that dynamic in terms of it's a little bit more sort of
point structured.
Yeah, so there's more of a competition of you versus me than there would have been previously, which I think in ways it's a good thing.
Yeah.
But because it does prepare you a little bit more for the way things work when you do leave. Yeah.
I think it's a sergeant. When you get to the sergeant level, I think you have to interview for your position, and then before you used to get promoted in unit, whereas now you get promoted.
Yeah, it's order of merits, and then you can just get offered different places in different units, and then depending on qualifications, then whether you accept or not. I think you're allowed to refuse it twice, maybe, or 3 times, and you kind of jump back to the bottom of the list or something, you know. So
it's changing, which is good as well, because it's becoming more of a meritocracy then. So the best person for the job is getting the job.
Yeah, the only thing it does, the flip side of it, is it promotes competition, which can be healthy and unhealthy at the same time, you know. Between individuals that are trying to get to work and gel together, maybe in a unit or overseas, you know. So there's a flip side to everything, I suppose.
Yeah, true. But how did you find the whole like transition from like soldier to civilian?
Yeah, well, I as I said earlier, I had 2 goals at it. So it was challenging in terms of and it's I suppose, look, it's different for everybody. Having listened to some of your previous speakers and chat to guys that have left before me, everybody deals with it differently. But for me, it was sort of about trying to keep a small link with people that were there. So still try and keep in contact, and try and tap into maybe 1 or 2 people that had left, and see, you know, I remember driving home within the first 6 months sort of. So I had gone, there was no going back. Driving home and going, what am I doing? But like at that stage I had done it. There was, you know, so but then you're able to still kind of chat. For me, I was still able to chat to the guys that were in. You know, I still feel a part of that a little bit. But then also ask the guys that had gone, like, is this normal? You know, like this again. Them open and honest conversations about, because we've all, anybody that's transitioned through that change has gone through that. You know, from military to civilian. So, to be able to ask somebody, is it all right to sort of think like that? You know, and look. That's a couple of seconds, and then you kind of your mind flicks back and you off you go then, and you know, kind of. But that lasted me for about, I'd say about 7, 8, 9 months maybe when I left. Like, I had them couple of moments every now and again where I was kind of going, am I really after making the right decision? Like, am I, you know, I think I mentioned it again earlier, was that imposter syndrome. Should I really be? Am I good enough to do this job that I'm doing? But, you know.
Yeah, I still get it as well. Like, James that was on as well, the CEO of Clear Story, he invited us to the tech summit in Dublin, and then invited us for drinks after, and there was like business people and like investors. I got talking to a venture capitalist for 5 minutes. I was like, what am I doing here? I just left. I had to text him like, look, I'm sorry I left. But
that's where the
imposter syndrome it is there. Like,
but it is 100%. But that's where that you mentioned it, where that sort of incremental increase, them small steps help you to adjust as you go. You know, so you can deal with that couple of seconds and just get over it and get on with things then, you know. But it's like the transition for me was the right time. It was what I wanted to do. It was my decision. And I left on really good terms, as that I still talk to the guys and go back in if there's any functions or anything happening, and they still invite me, and that's brilliant. I love that. Like, but then I'm able to have the new challenge that I do, and I talk to one or two guys that have left as sort of that network outside. So I'm not involved in any of the organisations or stuff like that, but you try and keep in touch with, kind of keep that circle small, but keep in touch with one or two people that have left again, that you can kind of lean on a little bit, and they can lean on you, like, and it's really good. Like,
that's what I had like 2 lads that I'd like kind of call up if I was having a bad day or whatever, and it's like, listen, it's grand, you know, just do this and do that and talk to them about this, and okay, grand, and you do it and it'll be fine, right? But it is just having that like little lean on. But we're gonna try maybe get like everyone that's been on the podcast or whatever, and even after this season is done, we'll circle back maybe next year or whatever and do another one. But try maybe build like a network of people that have left, so that you can kind of bounce off, or even just like a group chat or whatever.
That's a great idea. Like, I know the industry I'm in now, there's a lot of ex-military, like, in terms of the security industry. So, like, I would have, when I left, I would have worked directly with a guy that was in the military. He would have started being my direct line manager at the time, you know. And then he moved on, and then I moved into his position, and then I took in an ex-military guy to work with me. So you kind of, I don't know whether that's the familiarization you're going back to, or you just know what you get, or the adaptability. I don't know. There's a lot of things there that you kind of.
The attitude can be very different though. Like, at least in, like, if you're hired like ex-military, I haven't hired, like, I've put ex-military people into jobs, but I haven't had anyone directly on my team ex-military was. But you do know what you're getting, and you know the attitude, like, as well. It's kind of,
suppose you can vet them as well too by ringing. What's he like, you know, and you get an opinion and you go, alright, that's grand, you know. Maybe that's, I don't know how ethical that is, if you're cheating doing it or not, but it's like this, and there's guys you still keep in touch. If you see opportunities, you might pass them in their direction, you know. So, but
Securitas then, that was the second place that you went into, was it?
So so when I left the second time, Securitas was where I went. So I went in working in the data center space with them as the learning and development manager, based on a site here in Dublin. So worked there, and then spent a year there. Sort of had to design the learning program. That was a real experience, like working with 100 odd staff and that, you know. So that was really interesting. And then took up the job then as the campus security manager with them.
Right. What does like a learning program manager do in like a data center?
Yeah, good question. So it's look, you're looking after the physical security side of stuff. In terms of any new processes or protocols that the client may bring out, and then that has to be rolled out. I suppose first of all and foremost, you have the full-time employees that work there, which I wouldn't have had responsibility for, but the next ones after them would have been the security teams, and they're the ones that are there 24/7. So new process protocols that the client brings out, or ones that are currently there, so ongoing training in terms of maybe like the toolbox talks, we've online training, you'd have evaluations, assessments, stuff like that. So it was a busy spot, constantly evolving, as we know, the data centers are huge at the moment. So it was very interesting how quickly things would change and how you'd have to just adapt going. Not the adaptation part, but the change part in terms of the military, I suppose, would be quite slow in terms of getting things across the line or having changes to processes and protocols. Whereas, like within the environment I was in as learning development manager, it was just like, we're changing something. Okay, we're changing it. It's changed, and that's it, done. And you just have to roll out, train, and adapt to it, and get on. You know. So
okay, grand. And then after the program manager role, what was the next one then?
So it was the campus security manager. So so overall responsibility then for the physical security program there, and dealing with all sorts of so initially it was just learning and development and training and all that stuff, and then then I dealt with all the HR stuff, rosters, operational, plus the training program sort of, and where that was going in terms of working with the learning development manager that was there then at the time. So.
Grand. And now you're in health and safety, is it?
Yeah, so look, as part of that, there's a lot of compliance and risk things that go with, obviously. So I kind of in the background had done a few courses myself in terms of upskilling, and trying to just look at that side of things, because it wasn't something that I had a background in. I had the educational piece, I had the operational stuff from the military, but I hadn't got much in the sort of risk and compliance sort of stuff, so in health and safety. So I completed a few courses sort of in the last year, and then an opportunity came up to sort of step into Securitas, into the headquarters. So it's a bit like going back to the FHQ, you know. But an opportunity came up to step up there as the health and safety manager. So I kind of on a mixture of in the office, working from home, and then out on sites, then visiting different staff and clients and stuff, you know, throughout the week. So it's very busy. Yeah, look, it's busy. It is busy. I'm only there 3 months now, but really enjoying it.
Securitas the big company like in Ireland.
Yeah, so they have globally there's about 350 I think 1,000 employees, like, so they've lots of stuff going on, you know. Recently then they sort of, there's a purchase of Securitas, or Stanley, which is now Securitas Technology. So it's not just physical security, it's the solution. So all your access controls, you know, all that sort of stuff is going in CCTV, all that stuff's going in now, added to that part. So that's sort of an interesting part, working with engineers who are on site and sort of implementing them things and seeing how they start and then how they finish, and sort of how, I know health and safety is not everybody's cup of tea, but look, I have an approach where it's like, if it's a problem, we'll try and fix it, and how safe can we do something. I'm not going around with a clipboard just going, no, you can't do that, no, you can't do that, you know. So there's obviously rules and regulations that we have to abide by, but it's trying to problem solve and see how we can fix what we're doing to be doing it in a safer way. So there's a lot of good team in head office. It's sort of working there, guys on the road and girls on the road, and it's interesting, like, and globally, as I said, they've a huge footprint in terms of manpower in the States and Europe and the Middle East. So.
Yeah, brilliant. And how did you, you mentioned like you, like ex-military personnel like are in the company, how do you find like dealing with those like in the civilian world compared to like dealing with like people that have never been in the military?
Yeah, look, everybody's busy doing their own stuff, you know. When you leave, it's not like we all get back together and chat every week. It's, you know, but I suppose if you need something or you're not sure of something, you'd probably go to one or two individuals that would have served to ask them their opinion, because you feel like you could trust them or rely on them, you know. So I suppose there's that part of it where you kind of know their background, and especially if you do know them, that makes it a little bit easier. Like, so it's probably unfair to compare because you don't know the background or of some of your other work colleagues that wouldn't have that military sort of experience. So it's unfair to compare, but I suppose if something maybe that you're just not sure of, you may lean on them a little bit quicker than you would. Yeah.
And do you find like Securitas themselves like actively seek out like ex-army people like to bring them on board when they leave, or is it just kind of the best person for the job?
Yeah, I think it's the best person for the job, but I think they've had a good track record. Look, just if we think about the guys that are working at the moment, you know, there's at least, I'd say, maybe 10, maybe up to a dozen guys in working, and there's probably half a dozen of them in really good positions, and they've progressed since they've started, so in a short period of time. So like I think they sort of see that, although they're not actively going out in terms of, there's no veterans program within the company itself.
Yeah, that was the next question.
There is, like, there would be sort of word of mouth and sort of that previous reliability of military guys that have left and joined, and sort of what they've gotten from them. Kind of is very positive, like, very positive. So
that's brilliant. So, and then in terms of like advice that you'd give to someone like leaving the army now, like would you, is there any advice like that you have to give them? Or?
Yeah, probably not the best person. Haven't left twice.
No, that's all the matter. Like, you won't be the first. Like, I left twice. You won't be the first.
It's probably last. Look, give yourself time. You know, it doesn't happen overnight. There's a couple of things, I suppose. I've interviewed a good few guys that had just left or were thinking of leaving. And I found that they spoke about all of their experiences. So if you're interviewing for a job or you're looking for a job, try and focus on that particular set of skills, say, that you might have, you know, and how can you sell them. So I mean, I've been on interviews where guys were talking about operations, logistics, admin, and it was for one of them roles, not the three of them, and you kind of come off it, and the other guys that are with you are kind of going, and then I'd be having to explain to them, well, actually this is what he meant. So it's I suppose give yourself time, because it took me probably 9 months to prep correctly for it, you know, in terms of your CV and seeing what's out there, where to pitch yourself, adapting for the job role, and looking at what you want to do. That's the other part, you know, going out to something that you have an interest in, or that kind of that sort of tweaks your interest that you'd want to be involved in. And the other thing, I suppose, is when you think it's right for you, don't let anybody tell you you should leave, or, you know, this, you'd be great at this, and then follow what they say, because they'll say it and then they'll be gone 10 minutes later, like, so you know, when it's right for you, you'll know. Like, that's a couple of people have asked me, like, how did you know? I just did, like, you know, if you don't leave, stay where you are, you know, because you find yourself in a very awkward position in terms of being unhappy maybe with the decision you've made, and there's no, well, for some of us there's some going back, but sometimes there's no going back from it, you know. But so give yourself time, you know, look at the job role that you're looking to get into, and try and adapt your CV and your skills to that, and then when you feel that it's the right time, you know.
Did you know what you wanted to do before you left, or was it just like endless scrolling on like different job boards to find out what jobs you
did?
A
bit of endless scrolling, and then just really, I suppose, when I was in J7, it was all the training and education stuff that kind of opened my eyes to that side of things, you know, and how interesting that can be. So that's kind of where then I focused on. Maybe going in to the security industry in terms of transition, you're still dealing with similar acronyms and things that you would have dealt with in the military. So it's not too much of a, but it was a training role, a learning development role I was in. So it enabled me to create different learning interventions and sort of use your imagination when it comes to certain things. So that's sort of where that sort of married up in terms of my interest, where I was working, and then doing the cert at the start, you know, to get that piece of paper to back up the experience that you might have had. So
brilliant. And then the Defence Forces then as a career, would you recommend it then to someone?
Yeah. Look, I know it gets bad press in terms of money, you know, and that's probably not going to change. But there's a lot of other things that I suppose it undersells itself on, in terms of the training, the experience that you can have, the overseas, the people that you meet, and where you can start from and where you can get to if you sort of apply yourself in the right way, you know. I mean, there's some people join and leave and they don't do any of that stuff, and that's fine. That's for them. But if you've any inclination to sort of progress or to learn and do different things, there's lots of variety within it, you know. So I mean, the first couple of years when I started in 98, 2001 was overseas. At that stage, had all my driving courses done. You know, came back. 2004 was back overseas again. You know, so like within a short space of time, you've amassed a huge amount of experience in different environments. You know, so.
And you done 23 years, right? Was your initial contract like 5 years when you first went in?
Yeah, five. Yeah.
Would you recommend, now that you've done like 23, right, and you're out the other side of it, are you like sorry that you didn't leave sooner, or are you glad that you stayed for the whole 23?
No, glad. Yeah. I suppose I was the pension in terms of finishing at 21 was there, so you're once you kind of go over that 12, 15 period, that's what you're kind of aiming to do. But I was very lucky in terms of I wasn't just kind of sitting there waiting for the 21 to hit. I had overseas, and I had different experiences in different areas that I was working. So even coming towards the end, like the 21, I was still learning and doing new things, you know. So the whole time, that's sort of the way I felt it went, which is why then part of the reason when I look back now, I'm glad that I left when I did, because I kind of filled the 21 years with a lot of different learning experiences and different things, and then kind of went on to do something different. So
I always wonder, like, will I regret leaving after 10 years, and like I'm 32 now, right, and I would have had a 21-year pension at 38, so I'm like, I wonder, like, will I regret at 38, like, leaving so soon?
Look, you can't look back, I suppose. You know, you have to look forward at the end of the day. You know, it's not like the pension wasn't something that kept me. I know I'm saying when you hit 15 you're looking at that, but there was still a lot of stuff that I had done between 15 and 21, so it kind of wasn't something that I was sitting there looking, going, well, I need to get to 21 because of this. You know, there was still a lot of stuff that I was doing in terms of self-development, like, and that's a huge part. Like, you're obviously wearing the uniform and you're performing a role, but you also get to develop yourself, like, you know.
That was massive for me, like, not having a leaving cert, and then saying to the company sergeant, I'd like to go to college 3 nights a week, and saying, well, come back to me with a receipt to show me that you paid to go to college for a year, and we'll talk more. And then I went back, and he's like, okay, well, I won't put you on duties 3 nights a week.
Look, where
it was just endorsed, like I won't say it was like easy going, right, because he's like, you'll be on duties now.
But
3 or 4 times a month.
But you'll get the days off for your college, or your time off your college.
Just not be put on duties like on those days, because college was, I think, 6 to 9:30 in the evening. But like it was like support, like, and everyone's like checking in, like, how are you doing? How are you getting on? Do you need a hand or anything? Or like check, like, happy to like check your assignments or whatever. Like, so that.
It's great. Like, it was the same even in J7. I worked there, and I know Will Fitz was on previously, and he spoke about the availability of educational and sort of self-development opportunities, like, so the likes of the courses that are offered, whether it's own time stuff or your army time in terms of trainee technicians and all that, like, it's huge for anybody joining. It's, as I said, that's the part I feel at times that it maybe undersells itself in terms of what it can offer a young person that's starting off, you know. The headline is the pay, and that will always be there, but there's other things that you can that aren't at that when you're a young guy starting off, that may not be top of the list in terms of what you're looking for, you know, and you get that huge experience and that learning and qualifications, and be able to go back to college and be facilitated and helped, you know. It's
brilliant.
I
think that wraps up. Well, do you have anything else there?
No, that was a good chat, man.
Thanks very much.